Jason Jones, NBA writer, coach writer of The Athletic, with us here on D'Lo and KC. And Jason was just laying out how he's enjoying his December and how it's been predictable for both the Raiders and the 49ers.
Everybody's on brand, right, Jason? Kings, Raiders, Niners, everybody's on brand.
Yeah, everything is exactly how you thought it would be, you know.
Have
Kings
you
fans.
ever noticed how much Terence Davis sounds like Future?
I've talked to him and never thought about that.
I'm about to blow your mind right now.
Competition with myself. You know what I mean? And just trying to but even with competition with myself, it's just like the work already been put in. Now it's just about me maintaining.
Who's that?
Oh,
Do you know which one that is?
that's got to be Terrence, right? It sounds just like Future.
That was Future. This is Terrence.
Oh man, honestly, you know, it's been tough. You know, as a shooter,
Bro, they sound
You know what I'm saying? I already got everything is already set for me.
exactly the
Raised
same.
bar for myself,
Wow.
even for myself, I took it to a
We just discovered this like 10 seconds ago, and it's like we just got the coolest toy ever.
Wow, that's it.
He sounds just like Future, just like him.
That's wow.
TD,
What do you
his new name is Future Davis. That's what we call him out here in
Yeah.
South. Future Davis.
He's from Atlanta versus Mississippi. Okay, Georgia versus Mississippi.
Mhm.
What do you think of Terrence's play over the last couple of games under Alvin Gentry?
It's been, you know, it's kind of what they thought they had with him last season. You know, it's been good to see. You need to see somebody play above what they've been doing this year. I think a lot of the problem with the Kings has been everyone's pretty much been below what you would have expected or hoped for the most part. And to see somebody actually look like they're taking a step forward and actually playing well is refreshing, because a lot of this season has been, okay, this guy's not performing the way we thought he was. Like, okay, Rashawn's doing his part, but these guys over here aren't. And to see a guy go out there and actually do what you thought he was going to do, you know, I don't think he's going to be 20 plus points a night, but just to see the shots going in, and part of it is he's getting the minutes again. You know, he went through this stretch where if he didn't make his first couple of shots, he wasn't going to play the rest of the game. And no NBA player is going to thrive knowing that they're going to get 4 or 5 minutes to make a point. So I think the minutes have helped. I wonder what you do when you get Harrison back. How do you know, and Mo, how do you slide him around? But I think you got to keep him out there, just because when they traded for him and they had him, you know, going into this season, what they thought was that even though he's not a big wing, he's a guy who can defend some bigger wings and help him in that area. And if he can score and do a little bit of that, you know, anyone who's willing to play defense, I think Alvin's going to throw out there.
Well, I've been, and Damien as well, have been a proponent of Terrence and Buddy just need to switch spots, like as far as minutes and their role on this team. I don't know if Terence Davis is the answer or not. I'm not here to say like he's, you know, great or he's going to average 25 a night because he's done it two games, but I'm pretty sure Buddy's not the answer. So why not try Terence Davis at this point? Because I said all summer, and I was taking some L's earlier, I said Terence Davis is a better player than Buddy Hield. Buddy can shoot better than Terence, but after that, what does he do better than Terence Davis? My answer has always been nothing. So and that doesn't mean Buddy's a bad ball player, but I just think for this group, the way these guys play and what they need, I think Terrence is a better fit than what Buddy Hield is.
But the thing about this with Buddy too is that Buddy is like that. I don't know how to describe it, but because they want to shoot so many threes, you kind of dangle Buddy out there, because there's that whole idea that, yeah, he might go 5 of 17 tonight, but he might go 12 of 17 the next. So he's like that. He's the ultimate tease on this team. And because we've seen so many nights where Buddy has gotten hot, you say we got to leave him out there just in the hopes that he'll get hot. But the problem with that kind of approach is that you got to play him 25 minutes at least to kind of figure that out. And that means someone else isn't going to play. And you also have a situation where essentially when you're starting Tyrese and De'Aaron, and then you want to play Davion, you got 3-point guards. And you've got, if Tyrese is splitting between the 1 and the 2, Buddy gets minutes at that spot. And like I said, when you get Harrison back, where do you stick Terrence? Do you play him some backup 3? Do you play him 2 and 3? It's ideal when you want to sort out before you get to game 20 something. So but I don't see a scenario where they're not playing Buddy at least 25 plus minutes. I don't see a scenario.
Oh, that's a lot of minutes.
Yeah, I just don't. I know they had talked about in the past the idea of having more depth. So if Buddy is off, maybe you're not playing him 35, you're dialing it back. But I just don't see a scenario where Buddy's not playing 25 or 30. I just don't see it.
Well, he didn't play that in either of the Clippers games, but I think what I've always been interested to see, Jason, and this is what we were just talking about there a few minutes ago before you joined us, is will Terrence get the same? Will he get the same leeway if those shots aren't falling that Buddy got? Like, will Alvin be as likely to let Terence Davis go out there and rock 28 minutes on a poor shooting night, or will 0 for 4, 1 for 5, something like that, send Alvin to the bench and wind up seeing Buddy play, those like in a game where like Saturday night, he might've played 19 minutes. He ends up playing the 25, 26, 27 that you were just talking about.
Yeah. And that's the tough part, I think, because like I said, Buddy is like, it's a tease. You don't want to, there's always that feeling that the next one with Buddy is going to go in. And so that kind of leads you to leave him out there. And we can't forget, I know coaches may not go into a game saying, well, I'm playing guys based on minutes, but in an organizational approach, let's not act like Buddy's not one of their highest paid players. And you don't want to have that guy not playing just on this. That's always going to be part of the equation, whether people want to admit it or not. I know we love to believe that sports is all based on, all being fair and the best guy always plays. But that's not true. There's always going to be other things in play, and you're not going to play Buddy Hield $20-something million to not play. So he's going to get minutes more nights than not. But I think you have a point though. Well, if Terrence isn't making shots, will he stay in? I mean, history. It's kind of hard to say because that wasn't the case under Luke. But maybe Alvin sees something different. Maybe Terrence has shown earned enough trust now where you say, you know what, Terrence is going to give us enough other things to where if Terrence goes 1 of 8, 1 of 9. It's okay because maybe he'll get the boards, which Buddy tends to do. Buddy's a pretty good rebounder for a guard, but maybe Terrence is doing the other things to keep him on the court, because I don't think this team is in any position to say anyone has done enough through the first 20 some odd games to where they guaranteed minutes and that they can't lose playing time right now. I mean, this team is not, outside of beating teams from LA, they're not a good team. They haven't been a good team this season.
One guy that is starting to get some run and starting to feel good about himself out there is Marvin Bagley. And he's finding himself in the rotation. He's producing. He had a double-double for the first time in a year plus, I think it was. Maybe it was a little less than that, but it was a long time on Saturday night. Do you see Marvin like getting fully back in the rotation, getting minutes, 20, almost 30 minutes a night? Do you see that with this Alvin Gentry system, or is this just a virtue of Harrison and Mo Harkless being out?
I don't see him being a 30-minute guy. I just don't. I mean, even with how he's playing right now, he still wasn't even. He's not even starting. So I mean, it's good. It's probably good for his confidence. It's good for the team to see him get out there because now, as long as he's staying healthy, I think you got to think about the fact that. This is. I don't think this is going to be his long-term place anyway. So maybe this helps. I'm not a big believer in the whole you got to showcase a guy because I think at this point we know what Marvin is. But why not get some use out of him before before the maybe some team does see him play a little bit more before the deadline and says, you know what, we'll take a flyer on him. Maybe you get a couple of second-round picks for him for a team to be able to say we want to get a look from the rest of the year. But I mean. If they really believed in him so much, like I said, why is a guy who was on a two-way a year ago still starting ahead of him? And I just don't think they see Marvin as a long-term fit, and that's kind of been the case for a while. There's a reason why he was being shot before the deadline last year, and so I mean, it's good. It's a good little feel-good story for a week or so, but I don't think this is going to be a thing where we say in a year from now. Remember when Marvin wasn't playing? Now he's the starting 4-man and. And now look at this great turnaround story. I just think it's it's good for the moment and kind of let it play out. Because once you get Harrison back, Harrison's going to play a lot of those 4 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So, where are you going? Where do you play Marvin? You're not going to play Marvin at the 5. You're not playing him. You're not taking Alex Len's minutes from him. To give Marvin minutes at the 5.
Right.
So I mean, I just don't see where they're going to where you find the minutes once they're healthy. Because it's a cool story right now, but I'm not under belief that this fairy tale is going to end with Marvin and the Kings at the end of the season being holding hands and singing, and Marvin getting a new deal, and everyone saying, "See, we were wrong all along."
Well, that brings up a couple of different questions. You're listening to D'Lo McCasey on ESPN 1320 KIFM, West Sacramento and Odyssey Station, and driven by Lashers, Elk Grove, Dodge, Kenny Caraway, Damian Barling, along with Jason Jones of The Athletic. Is there any reason to believe that maybe the fact that we saw Marvin play well yesterday, we've seen kind of an uptick in minutes over the course of the last couple of games. Is there maybe this isn't a Kings organizational issue. This was like Luke versus Marvin. And now that Luke is gone, Marvin has, to a certain degree, kind of a clean slate. And he has the opportunity to come in here and play for Alvin Gentry and see what can materialize of it. Like maybe that kumbaya moment can come at the end of the year with these.
Because the thing is, it wasn't just a Luke versus Marvin thing. I mean, there's been bad blood between Marvin's camp and the Kings organization. It wasn't just Luke against Marvin. I mean, you've got a situation where clearly Marvin's agent believes that Monty has turned down trades that could have gotten him out of Sacramento. There were issues between Marvin's camp and Vlade during the whole Vlade Jaeger Marvin thing, where they were told that Marvin was going to start by mid-season, and then Marvin didn't start. I mean, this is not it wasn't just a Luke thing. And I'm a firm believer that, obviously Luke, you say Luke had control of the rotation, but if Monty had said, I want to see Marvin on the court, Marvin would have been on the court. The same way that there's a reason why Nemanja Bjelica was not starting when he was a better fit, going into last season. I mean, it's easy to, I think a lot of things get pinned on Luke, but it wasn't just Luke. There's definitely organizational decisions made, probably even with this case. So yeah, clearly it wasn't great with Luke and Marvin at the end, but it hasn't been great with Marvin and the entire organization. There's been bad feelings. There's feelings that the Kings have lied to him more than once during this 4+ years, whether it be, like I said, the whole, we're going to give you time to start, whether it's the whole, we're sending you home last season, this stuff, to me, there's been too much stuff to pin it all on Luke. I mean, Luke didn't tell Marvin to go home and then say, okay, we didn't trade you. Now come on back now. So there's been a lot between both sides to where I personally believe they'll be better off going their separate ways, which I know would drive Kings fans mad if Marvin ends up in some other city and all of a sudden he's a double-double every night. But some of these things that we got to this point, not just in the last month. This goes back to 2018, 2019.
I hear you kind of break these things down. You're like, man, there was issues with the Bagley camp and Vlade, and the Bagley camp and Jaeger, and the Bagley camp and Walton and Monty McNair. And Jay-Z said it once. If everyone else is crazy, maybe you're the one that's insane. You know what I'm saying? You got problems with everybody. You know what I mean? But
can I interject just for 1 second? Because I actually thought you were going a different direction. Mm-hmm. You said the Bagley camp. Like, is any of this actually Marvin? Or is it Dad and Trainer and Alexis and the whole crew? Is any of it actually Marvin Bagley?
I think on some levels, Marvin's in it. Yeah. But I mean, his agent has been going back and forth with the Kings for a while.
Sure.
Okay. Independent of Dad. I'm sure Dad has his say, but Jeff.
Well, Dad's also like, I got another one, right?
Yeah.
You want that money, you better work with this one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, like I said, when I say camp, I wasn't pointing at his dad.
No, I got you.
Yeah, I'm just saying, just in general, talking about taking sides. there's been issues the whole time. Long before we get to this season, Jeff Schwartz isn't sending that tweet before the season just because of that one situation. Like I said, you go back, like I said, you got different regimes, different coaches. That first year, there was a lot of tension in part because of the whole Yeager Bagley dynamic. I mean, I wrote the story about that during his rookie year, and I asked Marvin what his relationship was with Dave. Marvin laughed. So, I mean, that goes, we're talking 3 years ago almost. So these are things that have been built up and go back to a greater organizational issue to me, where when things are messed up from top to bottom, it's not just Marvin that's had, Marvin's a high profile name, but we can go back through the years and just see so many players who have said, I don't understand how they're doing things, or why are we doing this? Go back to the era when you had, when they bring in like a George Hill and they bring in, Zach Randolph, and these vets come in being told, you guys are going to play because we want to try to win games. And then you get to January and those guys are all told, you know what? Go ahead and sit down. We don't want to win. And those vets are looking around going, hold up. You told us we were brought here for one thing, but that's not what you want to do. So this whole disconnect between upstairs in the locker room and the coaching staff, Marvin's agent believing that he's going to be a starter during his rookie year, and then the coach is like, we're winning games, I'm not messing that up for him. Those type of things have been a constant just for years in the organization, like I said, across GMs, across coaches. And until you start getting stuff like that right, and that to me, that doesn't mean taking Marvin's side. Marvin could be dead wrong. But when there's no consistency, when people feel like they've been lied to repeatedly, there's always going to be tension. And that's one thing in this business, you have to have, there's a level of trust that's expected. And a lot of people who have come through Sacramento don't feel that level of trust between upstairs, and whether they believe that's the front office doesn't know what it's doing, whether they believe that's Vivek's interference, are people afraid of Vivek firing people, whatever the case may be, it hasn't been there. And that's why I ultimately believe Marvin's going to be much happier on a different team.
You mentioned something that I'm not like being a jerk at all when I say this. I'm really trying to think about it. And it's a fear that we all share as Kings fans and things of that nature. But player X is going to leave here and blow up. It happens all the time. And
does it really though?
That's what I was just about to say. Like, it doesn't really happen. The only one that came to mind was IT. And IT averaged 20 points a game here. Like, it didn't come out of nowhere. Like, he was already good. Pete made one of the most incompetent decisions in franchise history and let him go. But other than that, I don't think that happens much at all, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and I think if you're the Kings, you can't run your team worrying about what the player will do on the next team, because who cares? And I think too much of what's happened in Sacramento, there's been this fear of, well, what if they do this? Or, how does the look? And what's the PR going to be? Who cares? Even this whole notion of it's all about the playoffs this year because we don't want the record. Guess what? Monty wasn't here for the record is not Monty's record. So if Monty wanted to blow it up and start all over, the record's going to be what it is. And guess what? You got all this money tied up in the cap, and you're probably going to set the record anyway. So, I mean, just this whole idea, we don't want that record. And then and if it weren't for the play-in situation, let's be realistic. No one's talking about the Kings even having a chance of getting in, because now you got to be a top 8 team. Because most people would look at the Kings, they don't say, hey, that's a playoff team. But I think you saw what John Morant and Memphis did. They get in at, they're 9, and they beat San Antonio, and they come and they beat the Warriors. You say, guess what? Maybe we can be that team. But, you got to be realistic. And I just think you can't get hung up on, well, we don't want to set the record. You're going to set it. And to me, I say, you know what? It's okay, because it wasn't all on all of you. But it will be on all of you if you get to year 17, year 18, because to me, the worst thing you can do with a team in the Kings situation is not be realistic about what you have. And then you start, paying guys who may be good players, but aren't going to get you where you want to be. I talked to somebody around the league one day about the whole idea of why would the Kings ever say a player is untradeable? And their thing to me was, why? If you trade that guy, you won't win 35 games. Like, So what do you mean the guy is untradeable? What? Because because without him, you might only win 30 games. I think there's got to be a level of just, you can't be running around going, what if Marvin leaves and is good? Guess what? Marvin hasn't been great for you. That's what you got to care about. Well, we can't trade him to that team because they're in our division. So what? Worry about yourself and get yourself on the right track, because right now you're looking at a situation where, the core of this team is going to be together unless they make a major move. And what's this core going to really get you? You're going to be kind of in this same, maybe we can crack 10. And then everyone will say, well, maybe it becomes the blame game. Is it Buddy's fault? Is it De'Aaron's fault? Is it the coach's fault? You say you don't keep Alvin, you bring another guy in. Is it his fault? Is it Monty's fault? And I think Monty has the perfect situation where he can just say, you know what? This is what I inherited. I tried to finish with this group. It's not working. If Monty were to go into the trade deadline and blow it all up, I would completely understand that. And then go into the offseason and say, I need to find my coach and build it my way. But the thing is, we don't know number one, know if Monty wants to do that necessarily. And we don't know if Monty can do that. This is Monty's first GM job. It wasn't like Monty came to Sacramento with this track record of I've fixed this team and this team and this team. Monty's learning as he goes too. So it is what it is. It's kind of is what it is. So I'm a firm believer in block out the noise. Yeah, they're going to make fun of you. So what? Figure out what your plan is. And that's another thing people have always said about Sacramento. What's the plan? The plan always seems to change. Or is there a plan? Or is the plan just fluid? Is it like, okay, the plan is one thing now, and then, okay, this happened, we're going to change it midway? There's just so many different moving parts to try to figure out with this.
I think Tristan Thompson's blowing it up too.
Oh, but hey, see.
Oh, okay, it's my bad. I'll leave it alone. You got anything you want to add to that?
No.
Okay.
I told him, Jason. He was like, "You're gonna ask Jason." I'm like, Jason.
No, I have nothing.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5.
Yeah, I have nothing. No. I'm like Mike Singletary. Will not do it. Will not do it.
Jason, we appreciate you, my brother. Thanks for jumping on with us, man. We appreciate it. What are the 50 podcasts that you host that aren't the J Street Vibe podcast?
I told you this is the J Street Vibes.
Yeah, but he's got his own podcast because he found a new partner that he liked more.
I got my my little mini Kings one. I do Rule of the Court, where I talk basketball, and then I talk music. Like I think my last one, I talked about the versus battle.
That was crazy. That was crazy.
Yeah. I was like, I got family from the Cleveland area, so I was like, I was like, I want to hit my people, be like, man, y'all up here throwing bottles, people calling people ugly. I mean, you got to be pretty much on one to call another grown that you ugly.
Yeah,
to call a grown man ugly, just like that's the insult. Y'all ugly. It's like, man, that's. But I met DJ Paul. Actually, I met him with the Maloofs once, which was an interesting thing. He was selling it was after a preseason game. He was like selling a chicken. He had his own chicken seasoning. And at the Palms, he hosted a party with the Kings. And I got to go to the party, and DJ Paul was selling his chicken seasoning. It was actually pretty good.
Did you get okay? I was gonna say, did you get some?
It was good, yeah, but that was so long ago. I don't know if he's in the chicken business anymore. But, I mean, it was when the Maloofs owned the team. So I mean, it was a while ago. So I have a bunch of random connections to when this stuff happened. I'm like, oh yeah, I met him. He was, selling chicken seasoning. I mean, I don't know how many other reporters can say they met DJ Paul trying to sell chicken seasoning.
I don't know if he's in the chicken business anymore. Might be the best line uttered over the course of the 4 hours. It might be the best line uttered over the next 4 days.
I continue to say things that are just, I don't even know how to describe it. Someone's probably shaking their head at me going, I can't believe he just said that, but it's true. I got my Stone Cold look today, but
he looked good.
Yeah. People are probably wondering why I'm wearing
don't let somebody walk it dry.
Yeah, exactly. I haven't. Yeah, so that reminds me of this thing on Twitter about who are Black America's 5 favorite white people, and Stone Cold comes up repeatedly as one of the favorite.
Article comes out Wednesday in The Athletic.
Stone Cold, Jeff Hardy, Randy Orton are up there. You know, I saw Tony Hawk. I don't know why we love Tony
No,
Hawk.
Tony Hawk's not on that list.
Tony Hawk is pretty cool. I used to like
I'm
Tony
not
Hawk.
saying
back
he's
then.
not cool, but top 5?
Hey, what my? I mean, I saw
Zach
various
Morris
lists
is on
about
that
these guys.
list.
You know, I saw. I mean, who else was on there?
I'm putting a vote in for Zach Morris.
Never thought about that. Now I got to go look at my. I had a whole list where I had a whole list of them. It was like, yeah. You know, like I said, I don't remember who was on there now, but yeah, definitely Stone Cold.
I
And
got
Jeff
a
Hardy.
whole list of them.
Yeah. I did I came up with like 10 or 12. It was like I had Eminem on there. I had Rex Chapman. I had
Rex Chapman. That's a good one.
I had a bunch of the homies on there. It was like, yeah, these are guys that we all rock with no matter what. I had a couple of actors on there, a couple of rappers, you know, Michael McDonald.
Oh man.
You know, I mean, there's just some people that, you know, no matter what, they're cool. And so I'll dig my list up that I've created and I'll send it to y'all because I thought my list was pretty.
I need to see
I
this.
thought it was a pretty good list. Had some NBA players on there.
And Zach Morris needs to be added.
White Chalk was always gonna be cool. Jason Williams, the only player whoever I ever met who greeted me with a dap, like, "Hey, what's up, man?" And he had a velour Sean John sweatsuit on that day.
Believe it, and I'd bet money he still has it. That's Jason Jones of The Athletic. Jason, we appreciate you so much. We're